We just talked about pre-chuck checks. We made sure that we had the right nozzle the captain wants. We made sure that you're in rescue mode. We made sure the tip lights work. Now let's start talking about fundamentals of spotting. We're going to be covering AADO skill number 5 and 6 that he has out here. For all intents and purposes, we'll say the roof skill and the rescue skill, okay? When we start talking about the roof skill, I'm gonna pick it up because we gotta hit this pretty quick, guys. You're gonna have 3 types of roofs that we're gonna cover. Granted, there's a multitude of roofs, but we wanna have you look at 3. The flat, peaked, parapet. First one's flat. This is my flat roof commercial structure here. Here's my handy dandy truck. We know by studying, you have 2 corners in theory, okay, or 2 corners. The actual corner right here, everybody see this is the actual corner if I set the truck to the actual corner. And then you have a line, an imaginary line that goes to a theoretical corner right here. Theoretical corner, it looks something like this, all right? And we see if we were at the theoretical corner that we would be able to what? Cover area of that building a little bit as opposed to if we were at the actual corner, kind of limited in some ways. So we want to think about when we're doing corner spotting, maybe a theoretical corner if we were doing rescues on multiple sides. Now, if we were going to spot to a corner, which is a good thing for 2 reasons. One is it allows us to see multiple sides of a structure. The second reason that we'd spot to a corner would be why, do you think? Structurally, what would be going on? What's going on with a corner? Yeah. Collapse zone, right? Strong part of the building. So exposure to a collapse. You guys need to yammer at me?
She's just in a shadow. She's never seen anything like it before.
All right, good.
So she'll hang with Preston so she's not in the way.
She's not in the way. Awesome, good. All right, so yes, collapse zone. So the exposure to a collapse is limited. So if we're going to corner spot, this is our flat roof. Let's talk about some principles. I'm actually going to spot, in this case, within a bedded length of the aerial, and we do that because of scrub area. You guys see, if we were set way back here, we're limited scrub area. So if we hit bedded length of the aerial, we don't have obstacles. And if we did have obstacles, so let's say we had cars on either side of us, we may want to cheat closer to the obstacle side. Why is that? So we can fully extend our stabilizers on our working side. We don't work off a short jack side. Make sense? Yes, I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but I know you guys can handle it. All right, actual corner. Now it's a flat roof. Principles that we want to think about are 3 to 5 rungs above the roof. Makes sense, right? Reason is why?
See it, heavy smoke.
Absolutely. Maybe ease of egress, okay? The other reason that we might want to do that would be why? If we have one aerial on this side and one aerial on that side, we can easily decipher, hey, well, I'm going to go over there and everything else, visibility. So multiple egress points is what we want. When we're setting to a flat roof, the other thing is we want to keep about 6 inches off of the roof line or off of the eave or off of where we're setting to. The reason for that, why do you think, bro? Collapse, yeah, loading the structure, but also if we were torsional loading, you can see if we started torsionally loading on this aerial, that may be no bueno, okay? What are some things that you want to think about that may be on the tip of the arrow you may need to drop down? If you're really close, you may need to drop down the nozzle, right? Because you have waterway problems or that may impinge on your roof line. All right, so those are things we're thinking about. So 3 to 5 rungs, 6 inches off. Now let's talk about the next roof. You know there's things called parapets, and parapets can be anywhere from 3 to 6 feet to 10 feet. How can we tell between the roof line and the top of the parapet? What's an indicator for us? What tells us? So this is a parapet wall. Scuppers. There's an example. You look over there on that burn building, you see the holes right there? That's the roof line. So that's an indication that that's about 3 foot, 4 foot of parapet. You'll go to places that they may be 10, 15 feet parapet wall. We want to say rule of thumb is stay away from anything 6 feet or greater. And why do you think that would be, bud? Ease of egress. Think about how high that parapet wall is, and you got to get off that ladder onto the roof, back on, or whatever else. If you get on a shorter section of the parapet, maybe 2 foot, 3 foot, it's easier to get on and off as opposed to way here at top, okay? Now, if you can't get away from a 6 foot tall parapet wall, that's where you're telling, hey, Burnside, take a roof ladder up with you so you can set it, alongside the aerial to make ease of egress on and off, okay? Does that make sense? You guys see how I kind of scissored and that's the same thing we're gonna show you with the bucket. If you look around the corner, you'll see the bucket has attachments for a roof ladder. That's exactly what you would put that for. So when we're talking about, in this case, it's a straight stick. If we're talking about this is the bucket, so to speak, you're going to extend the bucket over the parapet wall or over the flat roof. And in case if it's a flat roof, you can actually bring it close and almost on touching it. If it's a parapet, it's going to be above because you have a parapet wall that's sitting there. It's going to be above it. And then you're going to drop a ladder down like that to get on and off the ladder. Okay, same principle. Now let's talk about peak roofs. Peak roof, here you go, here's peak roof, okay, peak roof. That's getting soggy wet. All right, here we go, peak roof, right? So now what would be the strong part of a peak roof?
The middle line and the eaves.
Absolutely, the ridge line would be strong. What would be another strong? The eaves?
Mm-hmm.
What would be another strong part? Valleys, if it was a hip roof. Okay, if there's different types of roofs that we know that we're exposed to. In this case, we'll just say gable roof, peaked, that we would set to the actual peak itself. Make sense? All right, and then we want to size up our roof always. Might be lightweight construction, might be standard construction, because we know there's some limitations and some safety factors you may consider. Time of fires, impinging on it, all that stuff. All right, so that's in a nutshell on roof spotting. We're going to try to practice setting to one roof and doing one rescue if we have time. Now let's jump to grandma, saving grandma in the window. Everybody see grandma in the window right there? Okay, there's grandma in the window. If we're going to save grandma in the window, we're going to show you a technique. For example, I don't have my gloves, but if I had my gloves, I would be driving up to grandma's in the window. She's in the most danger first, right? I'm going to throw my glove outside where I'm passing by the window. That's maybe centered up with grandma. I can't see that great. You see what I'm doing? Now I drive to where I centered up with my glove, and now I should be squared up with grandma. You like that, don't you? It's all an aha moment. That's cool, man. That's some trippy stuff, huh? So I want you to try that, okay? Because it's easier to sight on your glove than sight with grandma, possibly. Sometimes people use sidewalk seams or something to do that. So we centered up to grandma. If I'm gonna come, this is the windowsill right here to grandma. This is the bottom of the windowsill. This is the rung. How we're gonna approach to grandma is we may extend out and come to grandma like so. Or we may extend above grandma and drop down to grandma. And the reason is we don't want grandma to make an attempt on the ladder, okay? Now, if you're in the bucket, it's a little bit different because you actually can see how I'm approaching. So the difference is a little bit because you're right up close and personal. So those are things we want you to practice. I find it easier to extend and move to as opposed to above, but you guys develop your own technique. All right, so once we get to grandma, we want the rung even with grandma's windowsill right here. We don't want it inside the window. Makes sense, right? Because you're now blocking an egress point. So even with the windowsill, if you can, she can get on and off. If she can't, you're gonna have to go up there and help her. More importantly, it'd probably be better to have two. One inside, helping her on the ladder. Two, helping her down the ladder or whatever else. Make sense? Bucket, a little bit different with the bucket. Here's the bucket. Here's grandma's windowsill again. Okay, bucket comes to the window. You have two options. This is the bottom of the windowsill. This is the bottom of the bucket. You make it even with the bottom of the bucket. Now you can open the door, come in like this. Or you can do the top of the rails, even with the windowsill. I like this way better. I think this is an easier egress. Now, if you're with a bucket, the difference is with a bucket is you're gonna actually drive and center that bucket up with her. That's your center point for the rescue on the bucket, that you can bring the bucket like that. That way the doors are gonna come like this and can open or actually close in and goes like so. All right, does that make sense with grandma's window? What are your questions? I'm spewing a lot out real quick, and then we may, let me talk about high idle and all that other good stuff. I would suggest approach the objective quickly, drop it down. So for example, in the platform, you have rabbit and turtle mode. You don't want to shake somebody out, so you want to learn to use your feathering. And what do I mean by there? You're going to actually engage your controller to where there's a point of actual motion or energizing or powering the system. You don't want to just all or none, right? So feathering to that point, I would say move quickly, and as you come to your objective, drop it down to slow it down. Fine tune your in the turtle mode. Or in your case, maybe you drop it down at a high idle so you can fine tune your movements, all right? The other thing I want you to think about, if you're in a bucket, there's an E-stop. It's a big red button. Every time you work or rescuing, hit that E-stop, because if you hit any controls in that bucket, because there's controls up there, you can seriously flip people in and off and all that good stuff.
You can get real close because it's dangerous jumping over a ledge to a ladder is this far away, but from 75 feet away, that seems awful close.
Yeah.
And it's hard to gauge. So we'll work on some techniques for getting it the last few feet close, and I'll spot y'all in. But go ahead and crank up the truck.
Yes, sir.
And we'll get it close. Hey, Burnside, is that it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hey, when you pull that, when you get out of the cradle,
Yes, sir.
don't start going right, left, or out until you clear the truck, okay?
Yes, sir.
Because we strap all this stuff. We got ladders bolted to the truck.
Yes, sir.
So I like to get 15, 20 degrees before I start swinging left or right or pushing out.
Yes, sir.
Cool. Go for it, man. Control it, Bubba. High hat on. There you go. Lower, come on, bring it down. All right, retract. Just a touch. Good. Lower. Stop, stop. Perfect. Okay. You're a little bit in the window, but it's not a deal breaker.
Okay.
That's a good job.
Thanks, sir. Getting closer, but you don't want to break anything on quick three. Yes, sir. Not bad, man. Go ahead and pull it out.
Okay, Okay, so what we've done here with Kamer is, this is a parapet roof. He is fully extended. So if we could extend any more to bring the bucket over the parapet roof, we would have done that. Since we ran out of extension room on this, we went ahead and set the roof ladder to make ease of egress on and off. Obviously when we do that, there's an e-stop button. We hit the e-stop button up here. Then we can go ahead and get on and off the ladder. The thing that we talked about is that we would want to have these lights lit up here, and they're not lit. So that's one lesson learned on that we'd want to illuminate. And even the rail lights along the arrow, see there's lights that could be blinking or whatever along the rails that we'd want to illuminate. So this is a way to, a platform to get to a parapet wall or get over a parapet wall and everything. We tried to come on the low side because this parapet wall kind of has the high side. We kind of want to go to the high side, or excuse me, the low side closest to the corner. That's pretty much it, bud.
Okay, so every time we spot this thing, we spot 3 different things, which is the stabilizers, the knuckle, or the turntable, and the length of the bedded area. Okay? So every single time you're spotting all 3 things. So what does the policy say about spotting? What's the best spot?
Hey, John.
Corner. So not positive that that's true, but especially for rescue, and especially an apartment as big as ours with as many aerials as we have, you know, I mean, if we need aerials on the sides, you know, let's stick them on there, you know, I mean, we got however many we got, and we got, you know, anyway, so especially if it's burning or if we need that many rescues or whatever, you know, roll them up and let's do it. But theoretically, I mean, okay, so a perfect corner spot is a line drawn 45 through the building through the knuckle with the truck at 45. So this is theoretically the perfect corner spot. Okay. Most of the time you're going to be a little bit one way or the other. I mean, it's hard to be perfectly all the way through there. So one side is going to be a little bit better than the other, meaning that both beams will hit the windows better on one side or the other. If you know one side is going to be probably the operational side, if you're up that way a little more, then you have more, you know, it's easier to work on that side. I mean, if it's a pretty skinny building, you know, if the building is more like this and you have to corner spot and most of the work looks like it's going to be on this side, you know, if you're cheated over this way a little bit, yeah, you can still get this in these windows over here if you need to, but all of this is better. So what is the most stable working position of the ladder off of the truck?
Most stable position?
Technically that's true, but we probably wouldn't work that working position.
All 4 operators fully
Away,
extended?
like, I'm talking about back.
This is it.
back,
Yes. Right. So that is the most stable position for the ladder because you have the whole weight of the truck cantilevering the ladders. So this is the most stable position. The problem is you don't get a lot of opportunities to be able to back in. So if you can, and part of that is the way you approach it. So you need to come to this corner and you have a lot of room. So if you do this, of course we're still the length of the bedded aerial. So that's, you know, you don't have to back up very much. There are times when, you know, it would just involve a lot of stuff to be able to try to get that done. I mean, there's ways, you know, we'll do some stuff here where there's no way to get that done. Sometimes it lends itself to be able to do that, sometimes it doesn't. So when we're trying to get to this, but again, there's gonna be times when all you can do is pull right here and then, you know, you're working the best you can off again. So remember, especially for this class, that properly positioned is where this will swing and not touch. Okay. So, because if you're too close, you will be not properly positioned. So, also, this is no good either. So, what this makes us think is you don't really know how to get it close enough to the building, so you just got way far out. So, because it's just a math problem. So, the further you're away from the building, the less high you can go. So. There are times probably when you have to go higher, you know, it's really high that you may have to get up here closer, but then you're in the, you have to worry about the
Lower floors.
the not necessarily the lower floors, but stuff falling on the truck. I mean, if you got to suck it up this close, falling glass and all that kind of stuff with you being on the turntable. So, all right. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna drive around and spot. If I tell you to flat spot, that means I want you to spot, you know, where it's, you know, right to the window or the turntable or whatever, and then corner spot. I want you to try to get 45, you know, through the knuckle of that. So, is there any questions about this part?
Flat spot, corner spot, and what's the diagonal spot?
Anytime you corner spot, this is, you know, you're trying to get it diagonal to the 45 of the building. So across this way through here and through the knuckle with the ladder at 45. So there'll be places we can get that done, places we can't. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, so the stabilizers are good, right? No problem with that. So basically it's real important that every time before you set the ladder or you start messing with the stabilizers, is you come over here and you step right here and you look. So, because when you drove by, if it was on fire or something, you were probably looking at the fire or whatever, especially if it's on the other side where you don't even really get a good look. You know, it's on the opposite side of the truck that you are. Before you set the stabilizer, come back here and stand right here and look and see if this is where you want to be. So, so we're a little bit far, and it would depend on what you were going to do. So if this was one victim, or if you were going to use this as a standpipe, I would probably back it up to where it was perfectly square. If this is a hotel or something that has a lot of windows that we're going to be using it on, you know, multiple windows or around, this is probably fine. So, what do you think about the length of the bedded area? I think it's pretty close. In fact, I think you're just a tad bit far away. So almost all of these are about 10 of my steps. So actually no. So not this much, but that much is actually perfect. So anywhere in this area is going to be fine. Somewhere right around in here. Now, if you get out here, we're going to say that's too far. So of course if it hits, so that's literally perfect because you were that far from the thing. So, but that's what you got to do is before you decide, because once you set the stabilizers and get up on the turntable, that's probably where it's going to be.
Yeah.
So, but if the first time you see that there's wires coming across here is when you start swinging the ladder over, it's not going to be good. So just take the time to walk out here and look, and if it's good, then continue around and do the stabilizers. If it's not, take the 30 seconds or 45 seconds it takes to get back in there, move it a little bit, and then, you know, the whole, having it in a bad spot for 2 hours or 4 hours at an incident is not as, you know, just take the 30 seconds. Okay. All right, so the stabilizers are good. About the knuckle.
Knuckle I feel good about. I feel like it's close to the 45. My hesitation is how close I am to the building.
Length of the bedded aerials, you're too close.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things that you have to play with. I mean, this isn't a skill anybody's born with. I mean, you have to learn how far this is for this and that. I think the knuckle's pretty good. You know, which side?
This is probably the better side of it. Easier to, you know, line up the
Right.
ladder.
Yeah. Both of the beams are going to go in easier here
Sure.
than here. So if this was, it depends on how long this building is. I mean, if it goes a long way this way, if this is the operational side, this is going to be a little bit easier. If this happened to have been the operational side, the angle's not quite as good. But just a little bit further up, maybe right here.
Yes. Giving preference to this side.
Right. You can see how that makes that much more difference on the angle of here. And we can still get this if we need to.
Yes.
So let me check the length of the bedded aerial, but I think it's going to be 3. That's 8. So you got 6 feet. So
6 feet too close.
6 feet too close.
Yeah.
So what Doug Iannelli did when he was the ladder driver is he figured out that he would practice anytime he drove. If they drove to an inspection, he would pick a mailbox, a car, a pole or something, and try to put the turntable there every single time.
Okay.
He said he figured out when he was going, I think it was 5 miles an hour, that when the objective passed his shoulder, he could go 1001, 1002 and stop and be right there. So you have to figure that out for your apparatus. But you got to figure out some system to figure out how to get this where you want it to be. So whether it's, you know, you can eyeball it or whatever, but that's the system he came up with.